The mafia boss rented the banquet hall for one quiet family dinner, and by the end of the soup course, the woman serving him knew his own blood was planning to bury him alive. Mae Fontaine realized it while pouring red wine into a crystal glass that did not belong to her, in a room full of people who thought she was too sweet, too round, and too busy smiling to understand the language they used to insult her. They had no idea her grandmother had raised her on Italian prayers, kitchen gossip, and curses sharp enough to peel paint. They had no idea Mae had understood every word since the moment they walked into the Velvet Fig and decided she was decoration. The Velvet Fig stood on the corner of Willow and Ninth, between a closed piano shop and a bakery that still owed Mae for 3 holiday parties. It had once been the prettiest banquet hall in the neighborhood. Her grandfather had painted the ceiling himself, soft gold around the edges, with little vines curling near the chandeliers, because her grandmother believed even plaster should look like it had hope. Now the ceiling had a water stain shaped like Florida. The front sign blinked whenever it rained, and the walk-in freezer made a sad knocking sound at night, like a ghost asking to be let out. But people still loved it. They loved the velvet curtains, the old dance floor, the smell of garlic butter drifting from the kitchen, and the framed photos of weddings, birthdays, retirements, baptisms, and one very dramatic divorce party where the cake had said "finally" in blue icing. Mae loved it most of all. She loved it even when bills arrived in stacks. She loved it when the ice machine quit during a June wedding, and she had to send her cousin through traffic with 3 coolers. She loved it when a bride's aunt cried in the bathroom because the centerpiece roses were too pink. She loved it because the Velvet Fig was not just a business. It was her family's last loud, stubborn heartbeat. That was why, when Nico Bellarosa's assistant called and offered more money for one private dinner than Mae usually made in a month, she said yes, before common sense could sit her down and slap a menu out of her hand. Only after she hung up did Tessa Marlowe, her best friend and lawyer, stare at her from across the office desk and say, "Mae, please tell me you did not just agree to host the Bellarosa family." Mae held the phone against her chest. "I agreed to host an elegant private dinner for a respected local businessman." Tessa gave her a look. Tessa had a look that could make grown men reread contracts. Mae sighed. "Fine. I agreed to host a terrifying private dinner for a respected local criminal." "Mae, what? They're paying in advance. That is not comforting when the person paying has a reputation for making people disappear." Mae looked around the office, at the old filing cabinet with the jammed bottom drawer, the coffee mug full of emergency pens, and the stack of overdue repair invoices she had placed under a cookbook, because numbers were less rude when hidden beneath pasta recipes. "If Mr. Bellarosa wants to disappear something, he can start with my plumbing bill." Tessa did not laugh. That was how Mae knew she was actually worried. But by Friday evening, it was too late to back out. The deposit had cleared. The linen had been pressed. The chandeliers had been polished. The fig had been made soft and golden and welcoming, which was a strange thing to do for people who probably had more enemies than cousins. Mae wore her favorite emerald wrap dress, the one with tiny gold dots that caught the light when she moved. Her curls were pinned away from her face. Her lipstick was bright berry, because her grandmother had always said a woman facing trouble should look like she had already won the argument. Mae checked the dining room one last time, smoothing a tablecloth near the end where the fabric had puckered. 12 place settings. Low candles, white roses, fresh bread, little dishes of whipped ricotta with honey. Enough elegance to make rich people feel important, and enough food to make them forget to complain. At exactly 7, 3 black cars pulled up outside. The kitchen went silent. Mae stood near the front entrance and watched through the glass as men stepped out first. Large men, watchful men, men with shoulders that had never once apologized for taking up space. Then Nico Bellarosa emerged from the center car. and even before Mae knew which one he was, the air seemed to point at him. He was not the loudest man there. He did not need to be. He wore a dark suit without a tie, black coat open against the cold, his hair brushed back from a face too calm to be friendly. He looked like a man who had never rushed because the world had learned to move aside before he asked. His eyes scanned the street, the windows, the roofline, the door, and finally Mae. Most people looked at Mae and saw warmth first. Soft cheeks, wide hips, bright eyes, a smile that came easily and made strangers tell her things they probably should not. Nico looked at her as if warmth could be a disguise. Good, Mae thought. At least one of us came prepared. She opened the door before anyone could knock. Mr. Bellarosa, welcome to the Velvet Fig. His gaze dropped for 1 second to her hand, then returned to her face. Mae Fontaine. Mae, she said. Only tax forms and angry utility companies call me Mabel. One of his men blinked like he had not expected her to speak that way. Nico's expression did not change. I was told the room would be private, he said. It is. No staff entering unless approved. Then I hope you approved eating, because otherwise tonight will be 12 people staring at candles. His eyes stayed on her. A tiny pause passed between them, so small someone else might have missed it. Mae did not. Nico Bellarosa was deciding whether she was brave, stupid, or both. The kitchen staff may enter, he said. How generous. His gaze sharpened. Mae smiled. Relax, Mr. Bellarosa. That was my customer service voice. I would hate to hear the other one. No, you wouldn't. People tip better after they survive it. Something moved near his mouth. Not a smile. Almost the memory of one. Then he stepped inside, and the Velvet Fig seemed to remember every rumor ever told about him. The rest of the family followed. Valentina Bellarosa came first, wrapped in ivory wool, diamonds at her throat, her silver hair twisted into a perfect knot. She kissed Nico on both cheeks without touching him warmly, then looked around the banquet hall with polite disappointment, the way some women looked at old furniture they had already decided to replace. Behind her came Silvio Crane, Nico's cousin, tall and handsome in the careless way of men who had been praised too early and too often. He glanced at Mae, then at the room, then back at Mae's body with a smirk that made her wish soup could legally be served at boiling temperature. Last came Massimo Vale, Nico's advisor, smooth and quiet, with careful eyes and soft hands. He smiled at Mae as if he had practiced kindness in front of a mirror and hated every minute of it. Charming, Valentina said in English, touching the back of a chair. Very old world. Mae heard what she meant. Small, tired, beneath us. Thank you, Mae said. My grandparents opened this place 41 years ago. How sweet, Valentina replied. Family businesses are so emotional. Mae's smile stayed in place. We prefer seasoned. Nico looked at her again. Dinner began with antipasto and a silence so expensive it should have paid rent. Mae had served wealthy guests before. She knew the different ways rich people took possession of rooms. Some filled them with laughter, some filled them with perfume. The Bellarosas filled the room with calculation. Every glance had weight, every pause seemed measured. Even the breadbasket felt like it had signed a confidentiality agreement. Mae moved around the table with practiced ease, refilling glasses, replacing plates, noticing everything. Nico sat at the head of the table, his back to the wall. Valentina sat to his right. Massimo sat near her. Silvio lounged halfway down, drinking too fast and smiling too much. Nico barely touched his wine. He listened more than he spoke, and when he did speak, people leaned in. It should have been frightening. It was, a little. But Mae had dealt with drunk uncles at open bars, bridesmaids with secret grudges, mothers-in-law who believed seating charts were acts of war, and one groom who fainted into a bowl of Caesar salad. Fear was fear. Sometimes it wore a gun. Sometimes it wore pearl earrings and asked if the chicken was dry. By the time the pasta course arrived, the family began speaking Italian. Mae kept her face bright and empty. Silvio looked at her as she placed a bowl in front of him. "She moves well for a woman shaped like a wedding cake," he said in Italian. Valentina did not even look up from her wine. "At least wedding cakes are useful." Massimo gave a soft laugh. "Be kind. Desperate women are often grateful women. We may need her grateful." Mae placed the next bowl down without spilling a drop. Inside, something old and hot rose in her chest. Not surprise. She had been underestimated all her life. She had heard strangers make jokes in grocery aisles, seen men swipe past her on dating apps like she was a chair, watched suppliers call her sweetheart while trying to overcharge her by 30%. She knew the particular cruelty people saved for fat women who dared to be cheerful. They acted like her smile was permission. But her grandmother's voice moved through her memory, low and amused. "Let them talk, Cara. People hand you knives when they think you cannot hold them." So Mae smiled and offered grated cheese. Nico watched her from the head of the table. "You are quiet," he said to her in English. "I'm working. You were louder at the door. I charge extra for personality after appetizers." Silvio snorted into his wine. Valentina's eyes narrowed. Nico did not laugh, but again, that almost smile touched the edge of his mouth and disappeared like it had somewhere dangerous to be. The insults continued with the main course. Valentina commented on the faded curtains. Silvio joked about Mae's dress. Massimo said the Velvet Fig was the sort of place that could be acquired cheaply if the owner was handled correctly. Mae kept pouring, kept clearing, kept smiling. Her hands did not shake. That was something people never understood about her. They mistook softness for lack of steel. But Mae had kept a failing business alive for 3 years with late invoices, charm, stubbornness, and credit cards she prayed over before swiping. She could smile through almost anything. Then Massimo said something that made her stop breathing. "The transfer papers need her signature before the alliance dinner," he said in Italian, barely moving his lips. "Valentina wants it done before Nico reviews the collateral file." Silvio leaned back. "Nico reviews everything. Not if he is distracted," Valentina said. Her eyes moved to Mae for half a second. Mae placed the serving spoon beside the roasted vegetables and reached for Nico's plate. "More potatoes?" she asked him. His gaze lifted to hers. He must have seen something. Maybe her smile had become too still. Maybe her eyes had gone flat. Maybe Nico Bellarosa survived because he knew when a room changed by 1 degree. "No," he said. "Thank you." Behind the pleasant conversation, the Italian continued. Massimo spoke quietly. "The fig goes into the hospitality group. The debt gets moved through the property account. When the loss appears, Bellarosa signs are on the documents." "And Nico?" Silvio asked. Valentina sipped her wine. "Nico will be dealing with the wedding alliance. He will be blamed for poor oversight. Men forgive violence. They do not forgive weakness with money." Silvio smiled. "And then?" "Then the family remembers it has other options." Mae's pulse slowed until it felt like one heavy knock at a time. There it was. Not just cruelty, not just gossip. A trap. They were not only mocking her haul, they were planning to use it. The Velvet Fig, with its chipped office desk and patched ceiling and framed photos of people who had danced beneath those lights for decades, had become a little square on somebody's dirty board. They wanted her signature, her property, her debt, her gratitude, and somehow they wanted to aim the ruin at Nico. She looked at him again. He was speaking to an older man across the table, voice calm, expression unreadable. He looked untouchable. He looked like a locked door made human, but his family was already discussing how to pick the lock. Mae set down the wine bottle and leaned slightly toward him as she replaced his unused bread plate. "Mr. Bellarosa," she said softly, He looked at her. Your aunt is asking whether you prefer the lemon cake or the chocolate torte. His brows barely moved. Valentina had not asked that. Chocolate, he said after a beat. Good choice, Mae said. Then, even softer, with the same cheerful smile still on her lips, she added, she is also discussing transfer papers, emergency collateral, and removing you before the wedding alliance is finalized. For the first time all evening, Nico Bellarosa went completely still. It was not dramatic. He did not stand. He did not curse. He did not even turn his head toward Valentina. But something around him changed so sharply that Mae felt it against her skin, like the moment before lightning hits close enough to shake the windows. What did you say? He asked. Mae lifted his plate. I said chocolate is a good choice. His eyes stayed on hers. Mae smiled wider and moved away before anyone noticed. The next 10 minutes felt like walking across a frozen pond in heels. Mae served dessert while Nico became quieter than before. She could feel him thinking. That was the strangest part. Some men wore anger loudly. Nico did not. He folded his rage inward until it became almost invisible, and somehow that made it worse. Valentina seemed pleased by his silence. Silvio seemed bored. Massimo seemed confident. None of them noticed that Mae had stopped being the hostess and started being a witness. When the dinner finally ended, Valentina touched Mae's arm near the door. My dear, she said in English, her smile sweet enough to rot teeth. This was more charming than expected. Thank you, Mae said. We should speak soon, privately. I may have an opportunity for you. I love opportunities. I thought you might. Valentina's hand squeezed Mae's arm lightly. A friendly touch, a claiming touch. Mae wanted to pull away. She did not. Nico saw it. Of course he did. When the family left, the banquet hall exhaled. The black cars rolled from the curb. Staff emerged from the kitchen like animals after thunder. Someone whispered, "Are we alive?" and Mae almost laughed, except her body had just realized it had been holding fear in every muscle. She walked into the empty dining room and began collecting glasses. She had cleared half the table when Nico's voice came from behind her. You understood them. Mae did not turn. I understand lots of things. Menus, leases, passive aggression. Why caterers should never trust outdoor weddings in April. Mae. Her hand paused on a wineglass. It was the first time he had called her that. She turned slowly. Nico stood near the doorway, alone now, his coat over one arm. Without the family around him, he seemed larger somehow, not physically, but in the way quiet rooms became aware of him. Mae lifted the glass. You forgot to leave. You warned me. I repeated dessert-related gossip. You told me my aunt plans to use your property to weaken my authority. Well, when you say it like that, it sounds stressful. His eyes narrowed. This is not funny. No, Mae said, setting the glass down carefully. But if I stop making jokes, I might start screaming. And I have neighbors. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The fig hummed around them, soft and tired. Candles burned low on the tables. The gold ceiling looked darker now. In the kitchen, pans clattered, but far away. Mae looked at Nico Bellarosa and saw the thing no one at dinner seemed to see. Not weakness, not fear. Isolation. A man surrounded by people and still alone at the table. Then his gaze moved to the old framed photo wall, to Mae's grandparents holding scissors in front of the banquet hall on opening day, her grandmother laughing with her head thrown back. They want this place, Nico said. Mae swallowed. They can want all they like. They will not ask nicely. I gathered that between the body comments and the financial crimes. His jaw tightened. What exactly did they say about you? Mae waved a hand. Nothing creative. People are weirdly lazy when insulting fat women. Cake, sofa, desperate, grateful, the classics. Nico's face changed. It was small, but Mae caught it. Anger, yes, but not the cold kind from before. This was sharper, more personal, like the insult had landed somewhere he had not given permission. "Do not repeat it like it was nothing," he said. Mae felt her own smile fade. "I repeat it like that because if I let every cruel thing become a wound, I would not have skin left." His silence deepened. She regretted saying it. Not because it was untrue, but because it was too true, and truth had a way of making rooms intimate without asking permission. Nico stepped closer, then stopped with enough space between them to prove he had noticed the line before crossing it. "I can handle Valentina," he said. "I'm sure you can. You sound unconvinced. I sound like a woman whose banquet hall was apparently invited into a mafia accounting scheme without RSVP. His gaze dropped for 1 second, and this time the almost smile became real. "Very small, very brief, dangerous on the edges. You are unusual. And you are standing near the dessert station in a threatening manner. That is an upcharge." The smile disappeared, but something warmer remained behind his eyes. "You should let me protect you." There it was. The word sounded beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Mae had heard versions of it before, from suppliers who offered to help by buying her out, from men who liked her confidence until it stopped being cute, from bankers who smiled while suggesting she sell before the business became too much for someone like her. Protection was a lovely word. It was also a door that sometimes locked from the outside. "No," she said. Nico blinked once. People probably did not tell him no often. Mae enjoyed that more than she should have. "No," he repeated. "No. You may protect your empire. I will protect my hall. They are connected now. Unfortunately, they will come for your signature." "Then I won't sign." He looked at her like she had said she would stop a hurricane with a cocktail napkin. "You think that is enough?" "No," Mae said. "I think it is a start." Nico studied her for a long moment. "You are afraid. Very. You do not act afraid. I own a banquet hall. Last month a bride's mother accused me of ruining her daughter's marriage because the salmon had dill. Fear and I are roommates. That is not the same thing." "No," she admitted. "It is not." The honesty settled between them. Nico looked toward the window, where the streetlight cast a pale glow over the front door. "If I move against Valentina too soon, she will hide the paperwork, make you look unstable, and tell the family I am being emotional over a woman I met tonight." Mae raised her eyebrows. "Emotional? You? I have been accused of worse. By people still breathing." His mouth almost moved again. "A few." Mae should not have liked that. She should not have liked anything about him. He was dangerous. He brought danger with him the way other men brought cologne. But there was something strange about being seen clearly by a man everyone else was afraid to look at directly. "So what do we do?" she asked. Nico's eyes returned to hers. "We let them think you are exactly what they believe you are," he said. "Sweet, harmless, grateful." Mae folded her arms. "Careful. I said what they believe, not what I believe. And what do you believe?" He looked at her for a second too long. "I believe my aunt made the first foolish mistake of her life tonight." "Which was?" "She spoke freely near you." The compliment landed softly, which made it more dangerous than if he had dressed it up. Mae looked away first. "I can keep listening. You would be putting yourself in reach. I'm already in reach." "Mae," again, her name in his voice, low, careful, like he had learned it against his will. She lifted her chin. "You don't get to come into my hall, bring trouble to my table, then decide I'm too delicate to stand near it." "I did not say delicate. You were heading there. I was heading toward alive." The room went quiet. For the first time, Mae saw it. Not the reputation, not the cold face, not the locked safe everyone talked about. Something underneath, quick and dark and unwilling. Nico Bellarosa was not used to caring whether strangers were alive by morning. And he liked it even less than she did. Mae softened before she could stop herself. I know this is serious. Good. But if we do this, we do it my way too. What is your way? I keep smiling. I keep serving. I let Valentina think I'm flattered. You keep your temper on a leash. His eyes chilled. My temper is not the problem. It will be, if you act like the monster they want everyone to believe you are. That one hit. She saw it in the way his face closed. A wiser woman might have stepped back. Mae was many things. Wise when tired was not always one of them. If you explode, she said quietly, they win. If I cry, they call me dramatic. If you threaten them, they call you unstable. So we don't give them the story they want. We give them dinner, smiles, bad coffee if necessary. And while they think they're playing us, we listen. Nico stared at her. Then he said, You have done this before. Mae's throat tightened. Been underestimated? Every day since middle school. No. Smiled, while someone tried to take something from you. She did not answer right away. The candles flickered. Somewhere in the kitchen, her cousin laughed too loudly at something, and the sound seemed to come from another life. My father signed a loan against this place before he died, Mae said. Not because he was bad, because he was scared. Medical bills, repairs, bad advice. After the funeral, men in nicer suits than yours came here and told me selling would be mature, responsible, realistic. They called me sweetheart, while explaining my own building to me. Nico's gaze did not move. Mae shrugged. So yes, I've smiled through that. And you kept it. I kept it. How? I became very good at reading fine print and pretending not to hear insults. Something like respect settled over his face. Not surprise exactly. Correction. As if a file inside his mind had been updated. Then a loud crash came from the kitchen. Mae closed her eyes. That better not be the cannoli tower. A young server burst through the swinging doors, pale and wide-eyed. Mae, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The top tray slid, and then Benny tried to catch it, and then Rosa yelled, and then I think one of Mr. Bellarosa's guards started helping, but he doesn't know pastry physics. Mae rushed past Nico into the kitchen. The cannoli tower leaned across the prep table like a fallen monument. Powdered sugar covered everything. One of Nico's large, terrifying men stood frozen with a pastry shell in each hand, while Rosa, Mae's head cook, scolded him in a mix of English, Spanish, and pure betrayal. Mae stopped in the doorway. The guard looked at her. I tried to save it. You grabbed the support cannoli, Mae whispered. I did not know there was a support cannoli. There is always a support cannoli. Behind her, Nico made a sound. Mae turned. He was not smiling this time. He was trying not to laugh. It changed his whole face for half a second. Not enough to make him gentle, enough to make him human. Mae felt something in her chest tilt, and immediately decided that was none of her business. By the time the kitchen recovered, the hour had grown late. Nico's men left one by one, though two remained outside in a car across the street, pretending badly not to guard the building. Mae locked the front door herself. Nico stayed on the sidewalk, watching her turn the key. I told them not to be obvious, he said. They look like a murder-themed neighborhood watch. They will keep distance. They're parked under my sign. He looked up at the blinking letters. Velvet fig, velvet fig, velvet fig. The V flickered twice, then gave up. I will send someone to fix that, he said. Mae pointed a finger at him. Do not buy my sign. I said fix. You thought buy. I think many things. Try thinking cheaper. The street was cold and empty around them. For a moment, the night felt normal. A woman locking up after an event. A man lingering too long. The smell of sugar and garlic still clinging to her dress. If someone looked from across the street, they might have thought this was simple. It was not. Nico reached into his coat and handed her a small black card. No logo, just a number printed in silver. If Valentina calls, answer. If Massimo sends papers, do not sign. If anyone frightens you, call me. Mae took the card carefully. And if you frighten me? His eyes held hers. Then call me anyway. She did not know what to do with that. So she said, "Good night, Mr. Bellarosa. Nico." She paused. He looked down at her, calm and unreadable again, but not as locked as before. "Good night, Nico," she said. He walked to his car, and Mae watched him leave with the strange feeling that her life had just stepped onto a road with no streetlights. Inside the velvet fig, she turned off the dining room lamps one by one. The hall slipped into shadow, gold ceiling fading, chairs stacked, tablecloths gathered, candles blown out. She stood beneath her grandmother's painted vines and pressed Nico's card between her fingers. She should have felt only fear. She did feel fear, but beneath it, quiet and unwelcome, was curiosity, because Valentina Bellarosa had looked at Mae and seen an easy mark. Massimo Vale had seen a desperate owner. Silvio Crane had seen a joke in a sparkly dress, and Nico Bellarosa, the most feared man to ever stand under her broken sign, had looked at her like she might be the first person in years to hand him a truth without asking for anything in return. Mae walked upstairs to the tiny apartment above the hall, kicked off her heels, and placed the black card beside her phone. At 2:03 in the morning, the phone rang. Mae sat up in bed, heart already racing. The number on the screen was unknown. For 3 rings, she stared at it, then she answered. A woman's voice came through, smooth as cream poured over a knife. "Miss Fontaine," Valentina Bellarosa said. "I hope I did not wake you." Mae looked down through the apartment floor, as if she could see the dark banquet hall beneath her feet. Then she smiled, because apparently the show had already begun. "Not at all," Mae said warmly. "I was just thinking about dessert." "Dessert," Valentina repeated, and somehow the word sounded less like cake and more like a warning. Mae sat in the dark of her little apartment above the velvet fig, one hand pressed to the blanket, the other holding the phone to her ear, while the old pipes clicked in the wall beside her. The banquet hall below was quiet now, cleaned and locked, but Mae could still smell roasted garlic in her hair and powdered sugar on her dress. Her feet ached, her back hurt. Her lipstick was gone, and one of the most dangerous women she had ever met was calling her at 2 in the morning like they were 2 friends chatting about frosting. "I hope you enjoyed the chocolate torte," Mae said, because fear had never stopped her mouth from making poor choices. Valentina gave a soft laugh. "You are amusing. I try. It distracts from the plumbing. I noticed the building has needs." Mae looked toward the floor, toward the banquet hall that had held her family's whole life. Most old things do. And old things require strong hands, money, protection, guidance. There it was, the pretty ribbon wrapped around the hook. Mae pushed herself upright and turned on the lamp. The room filled with warm yellow light, softening the peeling paint near the window and the stack of unpaid bills on her dresser. "Is that what you're offering?" "I am offering you a way to survive," Valentina said. "My family has influence. You have charm, but charm does not repair roofs or pay tax liens. I can help you turn your little hall into something secure. My little hall has survived 4 decades, 3 recessions, and 1 nephew who thought indoor fireworks were romantic." "Survival is not success, Miss Fontaine." Mae smiled at the dark window. "Depends who's counting." Valentina's voice cooled just a little. "I will send Massimo tomorrow with a proposal. Read it with an open mind. A partial ownership arrangement. Nothing frightening. We invest, you keep your name on the door, and everyone benefits. And if I don't like the proposal..." Another pause. Not long, long enough. then you may discover how difficult survival becomes without friends. Mae stared at Nico's black card sitting beside her phone. The silver number caught the lamplight like a tiny blade. "Well," she said, keeping her voice bright, "I do love friends, especially the kind who call before breakfast to discuss contracts." "You are clever enough to recognize an opportunity." "I hope so. My grandmother said I was clever enough to hide cookies from a priest." Valentina did not laugh this time. "Good night, Miss Fontaine." The call ended. Mae stayed still for several seconds, listening to the empty line. Then she lowered the phone slowly and whispered the first word that came to mind, which would have made her grandmother cross herself, and then ask for details. She did not call Nico right away. That surprised her. The sensible thing would have been to call the terrifying man who had handed her a number and told her to use it if anyone frightened her. But Mae sat in the quiet and thought about the shape of Valentina's voice. Not loud, not messy, not dramatic. A woman like that did not kick down doors. She had other people convince you to open them from the inside. Mae reached for an old spiral notebook on her nightstand. It had once been used for catering orders, then grocery lists, then late-night budget math that made her want to lie face down on the kitchen floor. She opened to a blank page and wrote everything she remembered. Valentina's exact words, the offer, the threat, the mention of Massimo, partial ownership, strong hands, secure, survive. Then she wrote one more line. "They think I am hungry enough to sign anything." She stared at it until anger pushed fear aside. At 7:30 the next morning, Mae was in the kitchen downstairs making coffee strong enough to wake the dead and possibly one health inspector. Rosa stood by the stove stirring marinara for a lunch tasting, her grey braid pinned high, her expression already suspicious. "You look like trouble slept on your face," Rosa said. "Good morning to you too. You got 3 hours of sleep. 4, if you count blinking during the coffee brew." Rosa narrowed her eyes. "This is about the handsome funeral man." Mae paused. "The what?" "The one with the coat. The quiet one. He looked like he orders flowers for people he has not killed yet. That is oddly specific. I have lived." Mae poured coffee into a mug. His family may be trying to steal the hall. Rosa stopped stirring. The kitchen changed. Even the sauce seemed to go still. "What did you say?" Mae told her enough. "Not everything." "Not yet." Rosa listened without interrupting, which was more frightening than if she had thrown a spoon. When Mae finished, Rosa wiped her hands on her apron and looked toward the dining room. "Your grandmother would haunt every one of them." "I know." "She would start with the aunt." "I also know." "You call Tessa. Next. You call the funeral man." Mae looked at Nico's card, now tucked beside the cash register. "Maybe." Rosa pointed the spoon at her. "No, maybe. Dangerous people bring dangerous problems, but sometimes dangerous people also know where the dangerous problems sleep." Before Mae could answer, the front door opened. Every nerve in her body snapped awake. But it was not Nico. Massimo Vale stepped into the velvet fig as if entering a building he had already mentally purchased. His suit was pale grey. His smile was gentle. In one hand, he carried a leather folder. In the other, a small white box tied with gold string. "Miss Fontaine," he said warmly, "I hope this is not too early." Mae looked at the clock. For pastries, no. For betrayal paperwork, maybe. Massimo blinked. Then he smiled wider, deciding she was joking, because men like him always preferred jokes to warnings. "I brought sfogliatelle from a bakery in Little Italy. Lovely." Mae accepted the box. "If there's a contract hidden in the pastry, I'm charging extra." His laugh was polished and empty. They sat at one of the round tables near the windows. The hall looked different in morning light, less magical, more honest. Stacked chairs near the wall, a mop bucket in the corner, a tiny crack in one mirror that Mae always forgot until the sun touched it. Massimo placed the folder on the table, opened it, and turned the papers toward her. Mae did not touch them. "This is a simple hospitality investment," he said. "The Bellarosa family would provide immediate funding for repairs, staffing support, and debt relief. In return, our group would receive a modest ownership share and management input." "How modest?" 49%. Mae coughed into her coffee. "That is a very muscular modest. It keeps you as the face of the business." "The face," Mae repeated. "Yes. The heart, if you prefer. And who gets the hands?" Massimo's eyes sharpened, but his smile remained. "You are emotionally attached to this place. That is understandable. But emotion is not strategy." Mae leaned back. "You know, people keep saying that to me, and yet most terrible business decisions I've seen were made by men pretending not to have feelings." His smile thinned. She looked down at the papers. There were too many pages for a simple investment, too many clauses. Too many words like temporary control, collateral flexibility, emergency authority, asset consolidation. She did not fully understand every legal corner, but she understood enough to know the contract was smiling with too many teeth. "I'll have my lawyer review it," Mae said. "That will not be necessary." Mae lifted her eyes. "Massimo." He seemed pleased she used his name. "I own a banquet hall. I have watched people argue for 40 minutes over chair covers. I do not sign anything important without calling a woman who scares me more than the contract." His expression cooled further. "Time may be an issue. Time is always an issue. That's why we invented calendars." He closed the folder slowly. "Miss Fontaine, you should consider who is offering help and who is merely watching you drown." Mae's hand tightened around her mug. Massimo stood, buttoned his jacket, and smiled again. "Valentina admires you. Do not make her regret it." After he left, Mae waited until his card disappeared, then picked up Nico's card. This time she called. He answered before the second ring. "What happened?" No hello, no sleepy voice, no confusion. Just that low, controlled question, as if he had been waiting beside the phone all night. Mae looked at the folder on the table. "Your advisor brought pastries and a contract with fangs. I am on my way." "No, you are not." Silence. Mae could almost feel him stop moving on the other side of the call. "Excuse me? If you storm in here 10 minutes after he leaves, they'll know I called you. You did call me. And look how emotionally rewarding it's been already." "Mae, they think I'm considering it. Let them keep thinking that. I need Tessa to review the contract, and you need to find where this hospitality group leads." "I already did." That made her pause. "Of course you did." "The company was created 8 months ago. 2 shell owners. 1 creditor tied to Massimo. 1 debt note connected to Silvio." Mae sat down. "So they really are using me." "They are trying to." "And you?" Another silence. Different this time. "What about me?" Nico asked. "Are they using the hall to hurt you because it's convenient, or because of something bigger?" Nico did not answer quickly, and Mae felt the story grow darker around the edges. "There is a marriage alliance being arranged with the De Luca family," he said. "Valentina believes it will calm tensions and expand our port access. I have not agreed. Romantic. It is business. It is always business until someone cries in a bathroom. I do not intend to marry Sofia De Luca." Mae looked down at her own hand, then hated herself for noticing she was relieved. Does Sofia know that? She is in love with a violin teacher in Brooklyn. Oh, I like her already. Valentina does not. Shocking. If Valentina can make me appear financially reckless, unstable, or distracted, she can pressure the council to limit my authority. Silvio becomes the safer choice. Massimo controls Silvio. Valentina controls Massimo. and the velvet fig becomes the pretty little crime napkin they use to wipe their hands. Yes. Mae stared at the contract. For one wild second, she imagined signing it just to see how deep the trap went. Then she remembered her grandmother's photo wall. Her grandfather's painted vines, her own father sitting alone in the office after her mother's funeral, trying to understand bills he had never been built to carry. This place had already survived too much to become somebody else's hiding spot. "We need proof," she said. "Yes. They'll talk near me again. Too dangerous." "Nico, no. I have not even explained the plan. You were going to let them think you are interested, invite them back here, listen, and risk your life while pretending everything is fine." Mae frowned. That was annoyingly accurate. "I understand dangerous people, and I understand being ignored by them. That gives me access you don't have." His voice lowered. "Access gets people hurt. So does standing still." That ended the argument, but not because he liked it. Mae could hear that he hated every inch of it. Somehow, that made her trust him more. Not fully, not foolishly, but enough to continue. Over the next week, the Velvet Fig became the strangest war room in New York. To the outside world, Mae was just a struggling banquet hall owner considering a generous investment from the Bellarosa family. She accepted Valentina's calls with sugar in her voice. She let Massimo explain simple business terms as if she had learned math from a soup can. She laughed when Silvio dropped by with flowers and called her sweetheart. She even thanked him when he said the Velvet Fig could become beautiful with the right people in charge. Then she went into the pantry and wrote down everything they said. Nico came after closing every night. At first, he arrived with 2 men and a folder of documents. Then 1 man, then no men at all, though Mae suspected they were never far. He sat at the same corner table beneath the crooked mirror, reading Shell Company reports, while Mae tested gala menus and pretended she was not watching him learn how to exist in her world. He was terrible at it. He stood too close to the kitchen doors and frightened the dishwasher. He corrected a linen delivery man so calmly the man apologized to a stack of napkins. He tried to help fold programs and lined them up with the precision of a bank vault. Once, when Mae told him to taste the wedding soup, he asked if it was poisoned with such sincere concern that Rosa laughed for nearly a minute. "You have the energy of a man who has never been hit with a wet dish towel," Mae told him. Nico looked at Rosa, who was already holding one. "Do not," he said. Rosa did. The towel snapped against his sleeve with a soft crack. The kitchen froze. Nico looked down at his arm, then at Rosa. Then at Mae, who had one hand over her mouth and tears in her eyes from trying not to laugh. "Is this normal?" he asked. "At the Velvet Fig?" "Yes." He considered this. "I see." 2 nights later, one of his guards was helping Benny repair the freezer. Another was learning how to pipe whipped ricotta into tiny pastry cups. A third, a huge man named Luca, became deeply invested in the correct folding of blush napkins for a bridal shower and nearly argued with a florist. Mae told Nico his men were becoming domesticated. He said, "They are gathering intelligence. They are debating centerpiece height. Details matter." So did the way Nico changed when he was there. Not completely, never enough to forget what he was, but enough. His shoulders eased in the kitchen. His eyes followed Mae less like she was a problem to solve and more like she was a song he had heard once and could not place. He still looked dangerous under the warm lights, but the danger began to feel less like a storm outside the windows and more like a knife kept sheathed on the table. Present, sharp, waiting. Mae liked him. That was the real problem. Not the contracts, not Valentina, not Silvio's fake smile. Those were dangerous, yes, but they made sense. Liking Nico Bellarosa did not make sense. He was not charming in any normal way. His flirting sounded like a threat that had been raised by etiquette teachers. His compliments arrived so seriously, they made her forget how to answer. One night, while Mae stood on a chair hanging fairy lights across the small stage, he appeared below her and said, "You are very graceful when you are annoyed." She looked down at him. "That is not a compliment normal people use." "It is true. I am standing on a chair with a staple gun." "You are still graceful." Mae's face warmed. "Stop looking at me like that." "Like what?" "Like you're trying to memorize me for court." He stepped closer and held the chair steady. "I have an excellent memory." That made it worse. She reached too far. The chair wobbled. Nico's hands caught her waist, before fear finished crossing her face. For 1 second, neither of them moved. His hands were firm, warm through the soft fabric of her dress, but not grabbing, just holding, waiting. Mae looked down at him, her breath stuck somewhere foolish. His face was tilted up toward hers, and under the glow of half-strung lights, he looked less like a man built from rumor and more like a man trying very hard not to want something. "You can let go," Mae whispered. His hands released instantly. Not slowly, not with a playful delay, instantly. That was what undid her, because men had treated her body like a joke, a dare, a compromise, a secret, or an apology. Nico touched her like her permission was the only thing keeping the world in order. Mae climbed down from the chair, suddenly too aware of her own skin. "I didn't mean you had to drop me like evidence," she said softly. His eyes darkened. "I will never hold what does not choose to stay." The words were too much, too serious, too close to the tender place she kept locked under jokes and lipstick. So Mae looked toward the kitchen and said, "The cannoli tower fears commitment less than you do." He stared at her for half a second, then laughed. A real laugh this time. Quiet, surprised, almost unwilling. Mae felt it in her chest all night. The plan came together around the charity engagement gala. It was Mae's idea, which made Nico frown for 6 straight minutes. "We pretend Valentina's investment is moving forward," Mae said, spreading papers across a table. "We announce a glamorous event. Family, guests, press, local donors, everyone she wants to impress. I give a sweet speech. You stand there looking emotionally unavailable. Massimo brings documents. Silvio gets smug. Valentina thinks she has won. And then," Mae smiled, "then she finds out I know where the microphones are." Tessa handled the legal trap. Nico's people traced the shell companies. Rosa overheard Massimo's assistant confirm a transfer date while pretending to refill espresso. Luca, the guard with strong napkin opinions, found hidden debt notes inside a courier packet. Every piece was small on its own. Together, they formed a door. 2 nights before the gala, Silvio arrived drunk. Mae found him near the stage, running one hand along the velvet curtain like he already owned the dust on it. "You know," he said, "my cousin has become strangely attached to this place." Mae held a tray of espresso cups against her hip. "It has that effect. It's the meatballs." Silvio smiled. "I do not think it is the meatballs." "Then you haven't had them warmed properly." He stepped closer. Nico likes broken things. Makes him feel noble, but he gets bored when they start needing real repairs. Mae kept her face pleasant, though her stomach tightened. "Are you calling me broken or the building?" "Both, maybe." She set the tray down before her hands could betray her. Silvio leaned in, lowering his voice. "When Valentina owns this hall, she may keep you around. People like a familiar face, a big smile. It comforts them." Mae looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. In Italian, soft as cream, she said, "Careful, Silvio. Small men look even smaller when they stand too close." His face emptied. Before he could answer, Nico appeared at the doorway. He had heard. Mae could tell. Not all of it, maybe, but enough. His expression was calm in the way the sea is calm before it swallows a boat. "Leave," Nico said. Silvio tried to laugh. We were talking. No, you were leaving. Silvio's face flushed. For a second, Mae thought he might push, but even drunk, he was not that stupid. He walked out into the night, taking his sour pride with him. Nico turned to Mae. I had it handled, she said quickly. I know. That stopped her. He crossed the room slowly and stopped at the edge of the stage. That is what frightens me. What? That you can handle so much. Mae's throat softened despite herself. That should comfort you. It does not. Why? Because people who can carry pain quietly are often handed more of it. Mae looked away. There it was again. The thing he kept doing without meaning to. Seeing past the bright paint, past the jokes, past the cheerful fat woman everyone thought they understood. Nico, she said, because suddenly his name felt like a confession. He stepped closer, then stopped, always stopping, always letting her decide the last distance. Mae crossed it. The kiss was not dramatic at first. It was careful, almost questioning. Nico touched her face like she was something rare, not fragile, and Mae's hand curled into the front of his shirt, because careful was lovely, but she had spent years being polite to her own wanting, and was tired of it. When they pulled apart, Nico looked shaken. Mae smiled breathlessly. You look like you just survived a health code inspection. I am trying not to say something foolish. That has never stopped me. He looked at her mouth. I want to destroy every person who ever made you feel small. Mae's smile faded gently. She fixed his collar, because her hands needed somewhere safe to go. Then start by not making this about revenge. His eyes met hers. At the gala, she said, stand beside me, not in front. The silence after that was deeper than any promise. I can do that, he said. The night of the gala, the velvet fig looked like it had remembered its own beauty. Gold lights glowed along the ceiling vines, candles filled the tables, white flowers climbed the stage. The broken sign outside had been repaired by Benny, not Nico, after Mae made him swear 3 times that no mafia money had touched the bulbs. The room filled with Bellarosas, local donors, business partners, cousins, aunties, journalists, and people who smiled like they had no idea how much danger could fit between a salad fork and a wine glass. Mae wore a deep red dress, covered in tiny sparkles. It hugged her waist, moved around her hips, and caught the light every time she turned. She had almost chosen black because black was safe. Then Rosa said her grandmother would not forgive cowardice in formal wear, so red it was. When Nico saw her, he forgot to speak. Mae waited. He still did not speak. Blink twice if you're having a medical emergency, she said. You are beautiful, he said. No cleverness, no shield, just the words, quiet and certain. Mae felt heat rise in her cheeks. That was unfairly direct. I can be worse. I believe that deeply. Valentina arrived wearing silver. Massimo came with the final contracts. Silvio came with a smile that looked freshly repaired. They played their parts beautifully. Valentina kissed Mae's cheek. Massimo praised the flowers. Silvio called the evening impressive in the tone of a man discussing a dog trick. Mae smiled at all of them. She smiled through cocktails, through dinner, through Valentina's little toast about partnership, through Massimo placing the folder on a table near the stage, through Silvio whispering that she had cleaned up nicely, as if she had been waiting all her life for his approval. Then it was time. Mae walked onto the small stage beneath her grandparents' painted vines. The room softened into silence. Nico stood near the front, not beside her yet, not stealing the moment, waiting. Mae touched the microphone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here at the Velvet Fig. This place has seen a lot over the years. Weddings, birthdays, family fights, bad dancing, good cake, terrible speeches, beautiful reconciliations, and at least one best man who should still apologize to table 6. Gentle laughter moved through the room. Mae smiled. My grandparents built this hall because they believed people reveal themselves at tables, not when life is perfect. Anyone can look kind when the music is soft and the lights are flattering. People reveal themselves when they think no one important is listening. Valentina's smile stiffened. Mae continued, her voice warm, almost tender. Some people walk into a room and see history. Some see family. Some see a business opportunity. Some see weakness. And some people make the mistake of believing that a woman can be soft, fat, funny, and kind, and therefore not dangerous to lie near. The room shifted. Mae looked directly at Valentina. Then she switched into perfect Italian. She repeated the first insult calmly, then the second, then Silvio's joke about wedding cakes, Valentina's comment about usefulness, Massimo's phrase about desperate women. Each sentence landed harder than the last, not because Mae shouted, but because she did not. She spoke the words exactly as they had been spoken around her, with their smooth little cruelties still intact. Faces changed across the room. Some shocked, some embarrassed, some delighted in the way people are delighted when cruelty finally trips in public. Silvio went pale. Massimo's jaw tightened. Valentina looked at Mae with pure hatred wrapped in pearls. Mae returned to English. I understood every word, she said. I understood the insults. I understood the plan. I understood the transfer papers, the emergency collateral, the fake investment, and the charming little hope that my family's hall could be used to hide debt and damage a man you could not control. Massimo stood. This is absurd. The screens behind Mae turned on. Tessa had wanted dramatic timing. Mae had warned her not to enjoy it too much. Tessa had ignored her. Documents appeared on the screens. Shell company records. Debt transfers, draft contracts, emails, payment routes, a hidden file tying Massimo's company to Silvio's accounts, another tying Valentina to the hospitality group. The room erupted in whispers. Nico stepped onto the stage, not in front of Mae, beside her. His presence quieted the room faster than any microphone could have. Massimo Vale no longer speaks for my family, Nico said. Silvio Crane no longer holds authority in any Bellarosa operation. Valentina Bellarosa will answer to the council for fraud, conspiracy, and betrayal. Valentina laughed once, sharp and ugly. You would humiliate your own blood for this woman? Nico's face did not change, but his voice dropped low enough to make the room feel colder. No, he said. I would humiliate my own blood for betrayal. I stand beside this woman because she had more honor while serving your table than you had sitting at it. Mae's breath caught. Valentina's eyes moved to her. You are nobody. Mae stepped closer to the edge of the stage. For 1 second, she saw every version of herself people had tried to hand back to her. Too big, too much, too loud, too soft, too hopeful, too ordinary. A woman who should be grateful for crumbs. A woman who should laugh off cruelty. A woman who should shrink so others could feel elegant. Then she looked at her hall, at the ceiling her grandfather painted, at Rosa standing in the back with tears in her eyes, at Tessa near the side door, holding her phone like a weapon, at Nico, who had not saved her speech, had not taken her place, had only stood where she asked him to stand. Mae smiled. No, she said, I am Mae Fontaine. I own the Velvet Fig. I know your secrets. Your contracts are trash, and your nephew's napkin fold is crooked. Luca looked down at the nearest table in alarm. A laugh broke from somewhere in the room. Then another. Then the tension cracked. And suddenly Valentina did not look like a queen anymore. She looked like an old woman who had mistaken fear for loyalty and silence for respect. The rest happened quickly. Men who had arrived loyal to Valentina began stepping away from her. Tessa handed copies of the evidence to the right people. Nico's men escorted Massimo out. Silvio tried to leave through the kitchen and was stopped by Rosa, who told him no man escaped consequences through her source station. By midnight, the Bellarosa family had changed shape, and the velvet fig still belonged to Mae. When the last guest left, the hall looked like every party looked after midnight: flowers tired, glasses half empty, tablecloths stained, the air warm with perfume, candle smoke, and the strange sadness that comes after a room has held too much feeling. Mae stood alone near the stage, barefoot now, red heels abandoned under a chair. Nico found her there. "It is done," he said. "For tonight." "Yes, for tonight." Mae looked up at the ceiling vines. "My grandmother would have loved this. The public exposure of criminals? The dress, then the criminals." Nico stood beside her, hands in his pockets, looking more nervous than he had, while removing half his family from power. Mae noticed. "Are you all right?" "No." That made her turn. He looked at her with the grave expression of a man preparing for battle, death, or worse, vulnerability. "I prepared something to say," he said. "Oh no." His brow furrowed. "Why oh no?" "Because you look like you're about to negotiate with my feelings." "I am not negotiating." "Good. I am declaring." "Worse." He inhaled slowly. "Mae Fontaine, before I met you, I believed peace was the absence of threat. I now understand peace may also include shouting cooks, unstable pastry structures, aggressive napkin standards, and a woman who charges me for menacing near dessert." Mae pressed her lips together. He continued, deadly serious. "You are the only person I know who can insult me, correct me, frighten my enemies, rescue my reputation, and make me want to be worthy of a banquet hall with unreliable plumbing." Mae's eyes burned, but laughter rose too, warm and helpless. "Nico, I am not finished. I was afraid of that. I do not know how to be soft in public. You're doing weirdly okay. I do not know how to love without wanting to protect too much." Her smile softened. He stepped closer, then stopped the way he always did. "But I will learn, if you allow me. Not in front of you, not above you, beside you." The room went quiet around them. Mae reached for his tie. It was slightly crooked. She fixed it slowly, smoothing the silk against his chest. "You really are terrible at romantic speeches," she whispered. "I suspected. Lucky for you, I like repairs." Then she pulled him down and kissed him. This kiss was not careful like the first one. It was warm, laughing, tired, and full of everything they had survived without naming. Nico's hands settled at her waist only after hers curled around his jacket. Mae felt him smile against her mouth, small and astonished, like joy was a language he had heard but never expected to speak. Outside, the repaired sign glowed steady in the night. Inside, the velvet fig waited for the next wedding, the next birthday, the next family fight, the next terrible speech. It would need new pipes. It would need roof work. It would need money, patience, and probably 3 more arguments with the freezer, but it was still standing. So was Mae. And beside her stood the feared Nico Bellarosa, a man who could frighten a city, but could not intimidate one woman in a red dress who knew exactly how much space she deserved. When he tried to deepen the kiss, Mae pulled back just enough to look at him. "One more thing," she said. His eyes darkened. "Anything. You still owe me the dessert station fee." For a second, Nico stared at her. Then he laughed, low and real, beneath the gold ceiling vines, while Mae Fontaine smiled like a woman who had not been rescued from her own story, but had finally found someone brave enough to stand inside it with her.